What's up, guys? I'm back, and today we're here to celebrate a weapon from the greatest shootout scene in a bank heist movie of all time, the FNC. Before we dive into that, let's take care of some housekeeping notes. Make sure you're following me on Instagram at MadMaxGuns. Just gives you a little more in-depth look as to what's going on with my gun life and some other ventures that I'm getting into. And if you'd like to support me a little more, check me out on patreon.com/MadMaxGuns. But let's get into it. So what we have here is a Fabrique Nationale FNC, Fabrique Nationale carbine. It's a very interesting gun that I don't think gets enough recognition, but at the same time, it pretty much failed at everything it was trying to do. Nonetheless, still a very interesting gun. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you would have seen that about a year and a half ago I tried, it was before COVID, so back in the day I tried making a video on this and it just didn't come out well. I wasn't educated on it enough, and it was in the early stages of me actually using a real camera, so I wanted to revisit this. Let's start from the front and then we'll make our way backwards and we'll discuss some stuff that I like and I don't like along the way. The compensator up front is actually meant to shoot grenades off of it, which is pretty neat, and it works really well as a compensator. It kind of works as a flash hider too. If you looked in the video footage, there wasn't too much flash going on, and the barrel was staying pretty steady. It's a very thin profiled barrel, and right up front, one of the things I really don't like about it is the sling swivel being literally mounted into like profiling on the barrel. If you know anything about harmonics or whatever, or why we free float barrels and ARs, you know that any sort of pressure against the barrel will push the barrel at a slight bend in any direction and make it incredibly inaccurate. That's why free floating barrels is a thing. So that's pretty stupid there, but nonetheless, we'll move forward. You got some profile in here. I'm told it's to put a bipod on. Again, that'd be really dumb if you're loading a bipod and the bipod's attached to the barrel. I don't know. Right up here we got a shutoff valve / flip up sight. The shutoff valve is so all the gases get diverted and don't recycle through the whole gas system and just go out the barrel to shoot off the grenades. Simple enough. That's what the sight's there for too. It's 2 for 1. Heat shield, you got a nice little tin handguard going on here. And a plastic handguard here, and it works for what it is. It's nothing special. You can't get a nice thumb over bore on it. Your thumb will be in the way of the irons. You can mount optics to these. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, so you got a pencil weight barrel that's about 17 and a little, some changes. I'm not sure if it's 17.7 or 17.1, but semantics. But up here is the actual gas tube, and it's a long stroke gas system, sort of that of like an AK. We'll tear it apart once we get towards the back here, and I'll show you. And then you got a gas, like a adjustable gas here. I initially thought it was for suppressors. No, it's for when you're in shitty conditions and you need a little more gas to get the round out, or if you're shooting shitty ammo and you need a little more gas to function the gas system and cycle everything. But you got like adverse conditions and normal conditions. I'm not entirely sure which side's which. While you're shooting, you can figure out which one is better for the ammo you're shooting at that time. So if you're shooting some Wolf steel case, or if you're shooting some American Eagle 5.56, you're going to need some different gassing there for it to cycle smoothly. So that's the barrel. Up here we have a stamped upper receiver, a reciprocating charging handle without a bolt hold open. I'm told you can, if you jingle around with this enough, get the bolt to stay open, but it's not too, like you don't have a last round hold opening on it. So that is what it is. This will take any Stanag mags, which is nice. You got yourself a Colt 20 rounder here. Mag Colt E-Mag. Takes a little extra slap. Lancer. Takes a little extra slap. 416 mags. Nice and smooth in there. GI Sanders, I believe this is even a Brownells steel mag, but it's just a typical M6C mag. The mag wall here is kind of tight, so I'm assuming some of the Gen 1 P mags might not work, but this is a Gen 3 P mag. Let's see, that's a little tight going into, but takes AR-15 mags. Good to go. On this stamped receiver, I believe in the year 2000 or 1999, they started making little uppers that you could swap out that had rail mounts on them, or you could just rivet it on one, or you could drill and tap and do it yourself and make a janky one. I think adding an optic to this at this point kind of takes away from the allure of it, because this to me is just like a 1970s jungle gun. To me. That doesn't mean that's what it's meant for, but yeah. Moving forward, you got a low receiver that kind of resembles that of an AR-15. The mag release is right here. Safety selector is right here. Kind of far to be moving, but it works. You can do it kind of, to put it back on safe is a little tough. You kind of, for me, I had to, you'll be here, shoot, shoot, shoot. I could kind of get it, but it makes it easier for me to come off like this and put it back on safe. Pistol grip, as you can see, there's a little better contrast. Pretty hefty angle on it, but it works. Lets you drive it forward a little more. There's no secret that I'm more of a vertical grip fan, but this works. And then the trigger. It's I guess you could call that a take up for a first stage, and then you hit a wall, creep, 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 bang. If I had to guess, somewhere between 5 and 7 pounds. And the reset, pretty crisp actually, but it's combat trigger. Back here, folding. Don't want to call it a paratrooper stock because this isn't a paratrooper model. This is the M2 model. Whereas it came with a folding stock and a solid stock. The M3 is the paratrooper model, which I believe had probably like a, I don't know, 10.5 inch barrel, between 10.5 and a 12-inch barrel. Never seen one of those in person, but that is actually what my boy Al Pacino was using at Heat. You can see in the pictures that it was a nice short barrel. But yeah, folding stock. I believe this is like the light infantry model. Like I said, it's similar to that of an AK. And there's a lot of characteristics that the Scar took from this. Like the Scar's trigger is almost identical in here. It's really nothing to see, but take my word for it. The Scar's trigger is nearly identical. So what you're going to do here is you bring the bolt back until the charging handle comes back. And here you go. You got the whole bolt carrier. You know, this goes in the gas tube, long piston. 3-lug bolt, which is pretty neat. I'm not going to dick around with that too much. To take a lot of this apart, you got to drive out pins and everything, but this is the bolt carrier, the bolt, recoil spring, gas piston, all that fun stuff. So that's why people get confused and say that, like, oh no, there's no relation. The Scar is more closely related to a G36, and this is more closely related to an AK. Whereas, yeah, they're right in that sense, but once the Scar 16 went into production, this stopped. That's why I considered this, you know, the Scar's dad, because this is like the predecessor to the Scar. Not in terms of how it works, but in terms of what FN built. The FAL was replaced by the SCAR 17. This was replaced by the SCAR 16. You can argue that all you want, but that is what it is in terms of what FN was making for that class of weapons. But it goes back together pretty easily. As I say that. Put that back in there. And function check complete. So, a little backstory behind this. This is what FN brought to put in the NATO trials. Like around the time the M16 was coming out, they wanted to throw their hat in the game and see if they can make something that could keep up with that. Because they had the FAL, every country that was part of the UN, NATO, whatever, was using the FAL, but America being stubborn and more concerned with money and using the M14 because they were attached to the M1 Garand, they decided to not go with the other weapon, which was the FAL, which led to the M14 being the shortest lived standard issue infantryman's rifle, and I guess a good thing it brought along the M16, and this was supposed to be competitive for that. It failed. Ultimately, it's stamped receivers, not as good as forged. Accuracy, I'm sure, is fine, but it just ultimately failed. There's a couple countries that adopted it. The Indonesian army did. Indonesia. So I guess it's still being fielded, but like, what is Indonesia actually doing? They bought like 10,000 rifles, outfit them the way they need to outfit them. They call it like the Pindad SS1, something like that, and I'm not familiar with that at all, but it's just a modified FNC. The Swedish army is also using it. It's in their configuration, which I believe is called the AK-5 Charlie, and it's essentially an FNC that's just modified. I don't know much about that. I believe theirs is green, which is pretty cool, but this is definitely my favorite foreign carbine, and what I like about this so much is it's exclusive. They only imported like 1,500 of these prior to whenever they stopped importing them. And there's actually more select fire versions of these out there than there are semi-automatic. So I think that's pretty neat. It was my father bought 2 of these back in the day. One got given to my brother, and I kind of just acquired this one. Don't tell him. And yeah, if you can find one, I think they're pretty neat. I'd go buy one, but ultimately it was a failed project, and we were left with a neat little gun that, for me, is a range toy and a conversation starter. And when I watch Heat, I can be like, oh, I have one of those. So that's where we are. I believe they stopped production in 2004 or whatever. Whenever they started making the SCAR, so 2006, 2005, somewhere around there, they stopped production of these. And they are no more. So FALs, you can go out there and find kits from every different country, but this is a little more exclusive. Now, it has also regained some popularity recently due to Call of Duty Cold War and like Battlefield and Warzone being so popular. This is a weapon in there. I don't know what they call it in there. I haven't played Warzone since like season 2, I guess. I never made it past the Modern Warfare portion, but yeah, I would probably use this in the game because it's cool. But if you got any questions about it or some more information for me about it, drop them in the comments, slide in my DMs at MadMax on Instagram, MadMaxGuns. I'm shadow banned right now, so you got to type in the whole thing and look at me. Definitely a small fish in a big pond, so I don't know why they're coming after me right now. Either way, got any questions, drop them. I'll hope you enjoyed this, got something from it, maybe learned something new about a gun they didn't really know about, because this isn't the most common weapon in the world. If you want to support me some more, check me out on Patreon. I try to drop content that I don't put anywhere else on there, but pretty busy at the moment, a lot going on in my life, which is why I haven't really been dropping too much content. And As always, if you didn't like it, you can eat a dick. I'll see you next time. Ooh, this left hand salute. I'll see you next time. Peace.